What is up, Firebenders? FirePhoenixKing here today, and today we're going to talk about the topic about the Zelda voice dub that happened this morning. Short story short, no, they did not specifically state that they were done with the recordings. If that's all you wanted to hear, you can click away from this video. If you want the details and context, stay here so that I can talk about what's going on and what happened. First, let's talk about where this came from. This particular comment, or basically the discussion, the news broke out because there was a article written by, let's see here, let me just make sure I'm putting it up correctly, Game Reactor, and they basically listened to the podcast that came from Un Café con Nintendo. Now, the podcast is all Spanish, it's 54 minutes, and I actually, while I was at work, I took the liberty of listening to it all completely. And I am a native Spanish speaker, so I can definitely tell you what exactly it said and what they were talking about. Now, Game Reactor basically went out on a limb here and basically stated that the actor, stated that they were done, implied that they were done, and ran with that. And a lot of news articles started picking that up. And of course, some of them, like Game Explain, reached out to the Spanish speaking community and tried to get translation, but no one really had an accurate translation, because the thing, in my opinion, is they were talking in Spanish in Spain. So that's actually the formal Spanish. And I speak the United States Texan Spanish, I guess you could call it. I don't know if you put something into it, but what I'm trying to say, it's basically two different kind of Spanishes. One's formal and one's not that formal, at least in my opinion. Again, how I speak Spanish is definitely not the formal way. But again, going back into the topic, Game Reactor made a quick assumption that they were implying that the Spanish voice actor Marcelo had confirmed that this is actually all done, and basically because they said that a lot of people that know about game developments or so stated that because they said that they were done, that means that the game is almost done. And basically that's really what happened. A lot of news articles started blowing this up and went with it. And again, news articles such as, so some of these big people, I don't blame them, because when something big hits the news, you kind of want to also be the one to share it on your site. But this caused a huge upset later on, because that's actually not what was said. Let me take you guys through. I took like I said, I took the liberty of listening to the podcast, 54 minutes long, of between Marcel Navarro and Nerea Alfonso. Marcel is the voice actress of Rivali, and Nerea is the voice actress of Zelda in the Spanish dub of the games. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. So a couple minutes in, they ask Marcel if he's ever played the Zelda series, and again, I'm gonna go through the notes because I find it like it's cool to actually know what the podcast was about. So they asked Marcel, what if he's played the Zelda series or not. Marcel basically says he's only played Wind Waker and a little bit of Ocarina at a time. Nerea, who is the voice actress of Zelda, jumps in and says Twilight Princess is the game that she played, but when she was little, she would have a friend that wouldn't even let her touch the 64 and play Ocarina of Time, so she sticks with Twilight Princess. She later goes into detail saying that her brother-in-law is a big super fan of Zelda, and while she was actually auditioning for Zelda at the time when she got the part, she couldn't really tell him that she was Zelda, so he would be like, "Oh man, it would be so cool, like, to see the next Zelda game." And she was like, "Oh yeah," like, like pretending like she didn't know anything when she was already casted as Zelda. So that's actually pretty crazy. And then they started going into details about her particular casting in terms of Zelda. They didn't give her image. They just told her, "You're a princess, an adventurous princess." And they basically that was it. Like, they just kind of gave her a direction, and that's it. It wasn't until 2 weeks later that Nintendo told her, "You're actually Zelda," and that's when she started to cry because she was so happy. So the casting for Marcel was different. Marcel went into detail saying that for him, they actually reached out to him and asked him to provide samples of his voice. And after a while, they picked him as Rivali. So unlike Zelda, Marcel didn't really have an audition. It was more so him sending his sample clips and then getting the job, which is actually pretty cool. Now, this is where it gets tricky after this part. So a lot of interpretation of what's going on, and in terms of, whether or not it's done or not, it happens here. So along the lines, Marcel starts to talk about how he can't say whether or not they have dubbed Breath of the Wild 2 in Spanish. So after a while from, playing around from the host, kind of pushing towards to get the answer, Zelda comes in and says, "Hey, so we basically cannot tell you whether or not we have or have not finished recording dubbing, Breath of the Wild 2, which then jokingly Marcel says, "Well, okay, well, I don't remember whether or not we actually did or did not record Breath of the Wild 2. That's right. That right there is the meat. So basically, that right there, people are taking that as implication of, oh, well, he didn't deny it, so it's true. Now, implying means, it's not really factual in terms of, what's actually going on. So he said that in a jokingly manner. The humor of Spanish, I picked up immediately. I was laughing alongside it. It was nothing to take seriously. Just because it's almost like when, someone's bothering you about a crush, and then they're digging, but then someone tells you, "Oh, but you can't say anything." So you turn around to your friend and you're like, "Well, I can't confirm or deny whether that's true." That's basically what happened. It was a meme. It was a joke. It was just, they were joking around. There was no seriousness. Even from the host. The host was really respectful about the boundaries of what was going on, because he could easily tell that they were walking on thin water. And after Zelda said what she needed to say, Marcel kind of just jokingly said, "Oh, well, now I don't remember if we did or didn't," but it was a joke. Whether it was implied that it was done, that's up to your imagination, but it was not. It is not a fact that these voice actors stated that their dub was finished. They did not specifically state that. So no, they did not say they were done. So Zelda then basically goes on to say that, all she knows about, recordings in general is that she gets told to show up on Monday, like a Monday at 8:30 in the morning. They tell her what's going on, and by the director who is dubbing the game, which is how it worked in Breath of the Wild 1, who she wanted to, basically she wanted to be very specific about that, about her experiences, about, Monday showing up at 8:30. That's how it would work in Breath of the Wild 1, and she wanted to be very specific with that because, again, this is coming off of the most recent kind of discussion, and she wanted to just really make sure that everybody understood that she was referring to Breath of the Wild 1 when she was starting to talk about getting up on Monday at 8:30 in the morning, and the director would tell them a little bit about what was going on. They wouldn't know what they would be recording until the day of the recording. So that's what they were talking about, this part. And then they basically also stated that they would record separate, never together, and that they would record with confidentiality. And they have basically like a contract, a piece of paper that they would have to sign daily, not like a 30-page, book, but like a 6-page, like a 3-page contract that would basically say, hey, you have to keep all this in secrecy. But that they never really were told like what they were gonna record or anything until after the fact that they knew and all that stuff. Which, fun fact, they started kind of talking about this as well, that at the beginning, before even getting the gig, is they wouldn't even say Link or Ganon. They would actually have placement characters, placeholder names in those slots as opposed to the main characters in Breath of the Wild 1. Let me be specific. Breath of the Wild 1, not Breath of the Wild 2. And then lastly, they're really grateful for the opportunity, and they really do want to thank Nintendo for casting them and giving them this wonderful opportunity to actually be in the game of Breath of the Wild 1. But as far, and that's pretty much where it ends. Now, I had to reach out to Un Café con Nintendo because I started to feel really bad for them. A lot of media outlets took this and ran with it and didn't really check in with Un Café con Nintendo. So unfortunately, the podcast had to be taken down. They were talking to me about it. They were saying that it was causing too much controversy, and that mainly they wanted to make sure that the voice actors were getting respected in terms of, you know, of course, not getting in trouble with Nintendo, because someone like Nintendo, when they find out something like this, you know, they would not be happy if something were to be leaked for real. You know, fortunately, you know, if they were to listen to the podcast or ask Un Café con Nintendo for that podcast, it's all there. I listened to it, and I'm telling you, it's all for games. Nothing was to be taken seriously out of that. It was just all plain and simple fun. But then you have like tweets like from IGN saying Zelda voice actors finished production. Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 Spanish voice actors have said that they have finished their work on the undated sequel, and that's just not true. Again, it was just a joke. Maybe it shouldn't have been joked because you know it's also not the fans' fault or the media for interpreting something like that, because at the end of the day, it's sense of humor that got oh wow, I can no longer speak no more. It just got interpreted. I can't say it. So it just got into the news audio, the news media outlet made it to what they wanted it to be, and really more so wishful thinking. So again, I'm just letting you guys know I did reach out to the voice actors and apologize just kind of for what they're going through. And they were just like, they were awesome. They were understanding. They were thankful for my words, my kind words and stuff. But it's honestly, it's man, trust me guys, I want to know, what the update on the Breath of the Wild 2 is. But I wanted to make this video because, again, there is a lot of confusion, a lot of what's going on, and I don't necessarily blame the media. I'm not gonna be out here and be like, oh man, they should have done this. It's hype. During the hype, you also don't want to be the last one to report the news. But at the same time, I think me personally, I will only speak for myself. I'll make these kind of videos and to clarify whenever there needs to be some more investigating work, because I feel like IGN and a couple other news outlets like VGC, in my opinion, they do a pretty good job of covering breaking news on the spot. But this was just all because the translation is kind of hard to translate as well, because certain formal Spanish words or Spanish words in general cannot be directly translated to English. Like aguas can be used to say watch out, but if you take the literal translation of aguas, it means waters. So it's not like it can be translated. And then also talking about Un Café con Nintendo, that they had to take down their podcast. They also issued a statement in English and in Spanish, where they were basically saying that they took it down because they are surprised that many media outlets covered the interview, but jumping to incorrect and out of context conclusions that took no consideration of the people that of the persons implicated. So they were just trying to cover the voice actors and make sure that Nintendo doesn't go out here and start writing people up or something, or do something to the voice actors, when in reality it's just a really funny interview. It was a good time. I was having a good time. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't know of Un Café con Nintendo until this, and I'm gonna subscribe to them because I think they were asking really good questions. I was entertained the whole time. And the Spanish-speaking voice actors, Marcel and Princess Zelda, which I tend to kind of forget her name just because it's a little hard to pronounce, but it's Nerea Alfonso. They're really cool. They're really cool voice actors. So I definitely am gonna check out their work more, because you know from this it turned into a pretty cool thing. I ran into super cool people, so it's pretty cool. But anyways, guys, I did, however, have a small treat for you guys. I did, when all this was happening, I reached out to a very trusted source who wants to remain anonymous, to give me an update on Breath of the Wild 2. And although this is not concrete, because it's not coming from Nintendo, it's coming from someone that, you know, behind the screen, you're looking or listening into this and you're like, oh man, here comes an anonymous source, and take it with a grain of salt, because whether or not this is true or not, it's literally up to Nintendo. A lot of credible sources have said that repeatedly. Nintendo is a wild card. They would do anything out of nowhere. But I did reach out to this credible source, and the anonymous source stated that Breath of the Wild is pretty far in development and in the final stretch. They're actually already in talks about the trailer and doing a couple other stuff with Breath of the Wild 2. So I'm not saying this is in direct ties with what's going on, right, with the whole dub, because if the dub is done, then cool. But that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is this is a completely different thing. I reached out to an anonymous source, and they did say that it is on the final stretch, and that they're talking trailers and stuff. And with this whole previous video I did about the Nintendo Direct, and now a lot of people, credible people, coming into the public eye saying that the Direct, you know, will happen in July, and that July is going to be a good day for like gaming news, especially with the whole Xbox thing, and that a lot of people are saying that the Direct may take place before the Xbox event. This is cool. I mean, this is awesome. I think it's going to be really cool. But again, I don't want to make this video longer than it should be. I don't want to go into something else. I just wanted to make this video to kind of clarify what's going on. At the end of the day, we're all just fans of video games, and we want to know, you know, what's going on with Breath of the Wild 2. And again, just wanted to also back up these voice actors. They're amazing. They're good at what they do. That's why they were chosen. And so I think we should just kind of leave it be. Let's not really talk about it anymore, in a sense. But here's my video, right? Just wanted to clarify and let you guys know that no, the Spanish voice actors for Breath of the Wild 2 have not confirmed whether they have or they haven't finished their work on Breath of the Wild 2. Period. That is it, Firebenders. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Keep it in the comment section below. Keep it clean, fellas, and the hype is real. Hopefully everything turns true for Nintendo and Nintendo Directs and all these news. And I really do hope that a lot of things happen this month for gaming news all around, not just Nintendo. Firebenders, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and you guys have a great day. Later.